Good morning, everybody. Today I'll be reading from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, and these are a few selected excerpts across all the volumes that have stood out to me personally. Why does man look for a God? Why does man, in every nation, in every state of society, want a perfect ideal somewhere, either in man, in God, or elsewhere? Because that idea is within you. It was your own heart beating, and you did not know. You are mistaking it for something external. It is the God within your own self that is propelling you to seek for Him, to realize Him. After long searches, here and there, in temples and in churches, in earths and in heavens, at last you come back, completing the circle from where you started, to your own soul, and find that He for whom you have been seeking all over the world, for whom you have been weeping and praying in churches and temples, on whom you were looking as the mystery of all mysteries, shrouded in the clouds, is nearest of the near, is your own self, the reality of your life, body, and soul. That is your own nature. Assert it, manifest it. Not to become pure, you're pure already. You're not to be perfect, you're that already. Happiness is only found in the spirit. Therefore, the highest utility for mankind is to find this happiness in the spirit. The next point is that ignorance is the great mother of all misery, and the fundamental ignorance is to think that the infinite weeps and cries that He is finite. This is the basis of all ignorance, that we, the immortal, the ever pure, the perfect spirit, think that we are little minds, that we are little bodies. It is the mother of all selfishness. As soon as the idea of separation comes, it opens the door to all mischief and leads to all misery. We are dying of thirst, sitting on the banks of the mightiest river. We are dying of hunger, sitting near heaps of food. Here is the blissful universe, yet we do not find it. We are in it all the time, and we are always mistaking it. This self is first to be heard, then to be thought upon, and then meditated upon. If a man with an ideal makes 1,000 mistakes, I'm sure that the man without an ideal makes 50,000. Therefore, it is better to have an ideal. Fill the mind with the highest thoughts, hear them day after day, think them month after month. Never mind failures, they're quite natural. They are the beauty of life, these failures. So never mind these failures, these little backslidings. Hold the ideal 1,000 times, and if you fail 1,000 times, make the attempt once more. The ideal of man is to see God in everything. According to Karma Yoga, the action one has done cannot be destroyed until it has borne its fruit. No power in nature can stop it from yielding its results. The cause must have its effect. Nothing can prevent or restrain this. There is no action which does not bear good and evil fruits at the same time. He who in good action sees that there is something evil in it, and in the midst of evil sees that there is something good in it somewhere, has known the secret of work. So do your work, says the Vedanta, seeing God everywhere. Work incessantly, holding life as something deified, as God Himself, and knowing that this is all we have to do. This is all we should ask for. Thus, the effects of work will not bind us. All human knowledge proceeds out of experience. We cannot know anything except by experience. Looking around us, what do we find? A continuous change. Everywhere, circles are being completed. Birth, growth, development, and decay following each other with mathematical precision. Inside of it all, behind all this vast mass of what we call life, of millions of forms and shapes, millions upon millions of varieties, beginning from the lowest atom to the highest spiritualized man, we find existing a certain unity, the one life that runs through all like a continuous chain, of which all these various forms represent the links, link after link, extending almost infinitely, but of the same one chain. Nothing can be evolved which is not already there. The seed is the tree involved, and the tree is the seed evolved. The child is the man involved, and the man is the child evolved. The infinite, which lies latent in every life, is independent of all external conditions. It can never grow. It was always there and only manifests itself. But the question of immortality is not yet settled. We have seen that everything in this universe is indestructible. There is nothing new, there will be nothing new. The same series of manifestations are presenting themselves alternately, like a wheel coming up and going down. All motion in this universe is in the form of waves, successively rising and falling. Suppose we take a number of dice and throw them, and they fall into this ratio 6, 5, 3, and 4. We take the dice and throw them again and again. There must be a time when the same numbers will come again. The same combination must come. Now each particle, each atom, this is the universe. I take for such a die, and these are being thrown out and combined again and again. All these forms before you are one combination. Here are the forms of a glass, a table, a pitcher of water, and so forth. This is one combination. In time, it will all break. But there must come a time when exactly the same combination comes again, when you will be here, and this form will be here, this subject will be talked, and this picture will be here. An infinite number of times this has been, and an infinite number of times this will be repeated. Everything moves in a circle, a straight line, infinitely produced, becomes a circle. Everything must complete the circle and come back to its source. We see then that the self of man is not the body, neither is it thought. The self of man, being beyond the law of causation, is not a compound. It is ever free and is the ruler of everything that is within law. It will never die because death means going back to its component parts, and that which was never a compound can never die. You were never born and you will never die. This belongs to the body only, because the soul is omnipresent. You are infinite, ever present, beyond all causation, and ever free. If then we are beyond all law, we must be omniscient, ever blessed. All knowledge must be in us, and all power and blessedness. But of such things, can there be many? Certainly not. You are only one. There is only one such self, and that one self is you. Wherever there are two, there is fear, there is danger, there is conflict, there is strife. When it is all one, who is there to hate? Who is there to struggle with? When it is all he, with whom can you fight? This explains the true nature of life. This explains the true nature of being. This is perfection, and this is God. As long as you see the many, you are under delusion. In this world of many, he who sees the one, in this ever-changing world, he who sees him who never changes as the soul of his own soul, as his own self, he is free, he is blessed, he has reached the goal. Therefore, know that thou art he, thou art the God of the universe. Tattvamasi, that thou art. Stand up then and be free. Know that every thought and word that weakens you in this world is the only evil that exists. Stand as a rock, you are indestructible. Say, I am existence absolute, bliss absolute, knowledge absolute. Sat Chit Ananda, I am he. And like a lion breaking its cage, break your chain and be free forever. You are the pure one, the ever blessed. Jai Ma.
Riyam, I'll be reading excerpts from 2 chapters of The Wisdom of No Escape by the popular American Buddhist nun, Pema Chodron. These are based on talks she gave at a meditation retreat in the spring of 1989 at Campo Abbey in Nova Scotia, Canada. Joy. Joy has to do with seeing how big, how completely unobstructed, and how precious things are. Resenting what happens to you and complaining about your life are like refusing to smell the wild roses when you go for a morning walk, or like being so blind that you don't see a huge black raven when it lands in the tree that you're sitting under. We can get so caught up in our own personal pain or worries that we don't notice that the wind has come up or that somebody has put flowers on the dining room table. Or that when we walked out in the morning, the flags weren't up. And then when we came back, they were flying. Resentment, bitterness, and holding a grudge prevent us from seeing and hearing and tasting and delighting. There is a story of a woman running away from tigers. She runs and runs, and the tigers are getting closer and closer. When she comes to the edge of a cliff, she sees some vines there, so she climbs down and holds on to the vines. Looking down, she sees that there are tigers below her as well. She then notices that a mouse is gnawing away at the vine to which she is clinging. She also sees a beautiful little bunch of strawberries close to her, growing out of a clump of grass. She looks up and she looks down. She looks at the mouse. Then she just takes a strawberry, puts it in her mouth, and enjoys it thoroughly. Tigers above, tigers below. This is actually the predicament that we are always in terms of our birth and death. Each moment is just what it is. It might be the only moment of our life. It might be the only strawberry we'll ever eat. We could get depressed about it, or we could finally appreciate it and delight in the preciousness of every single moment of our life. On a day of silence like today, when things are very still, you may find that you are feeling grim and doing everything with a grim expression. Grimly opening the door, grimly drinking your tea, concentrating so hard on being quiet and still and moving slowly that you're miserable. On the other hand, you could just relax and realize that behind all the worry, complaint, and disapproval that goes on in your mind, the sun is always coming up in the morning, moving across the sky, and going down in the evening. The birds are always out there, collecting their food, and making their nests and flying across the sky. The grass is always being blown by the wind or standing still. Food and flowers and trees are growing out of the earth. There's enormous richness. You could develop your passion for life and your curiosity and your interest. You could connect with your joyfulness. You could start right now. The Navajo teach their children that every morning when the sun comes up, it's a brand new sun. It's born each morning. It lives for the duration of one day, and in the evening it passes on, never to return again. As soon as the children are old enough to understand, the adults take them out at dawn and they say, "The sun has only one day. You must live this day in a good way, so that the sun won't have wasted precious time. Acknowledging the preciousness of each day is a good way to live, a good way to reconnect with our basic joy. Taking a bigger perspective, heaven and hell. There's another story that you may have read that has to do with what we call heaven and hell, life and death, good and bad. It's a story about how those things don't really exist, except as a creation of our own minds. It goes like this. A big, burly samurai comes to the wise man and says, "Tell me the nature of heaven and hell." And the Roshi looks him in the face and says, "Why should I tell a scruffy, disgusting, miserable slob like you?" The samurai starts to get purple in the face. His hair starts to stand up, but the Roshi won't stop. He keeps saying, "A miserable worm like you. Do you think I should tell you anything?" Consumed by rage, the samurai draws his sword, and he's just about to cut off the head of the Roshi. Then the Roshi says, "That's hell." The samurai, who's in fact a sensitive person, instantly gets it, that he just created his own hell. He was deep in hell. It was black and hot, filled with hatred, self-protection, anger, and resentment. So much so that he was going to kill this man. Tears fill his eyes, and he starts to cry, and he puts his palms together, and the Roshi says, "That's heaven." There isn't any hell or heaven, except for how we relate to our world. Hell is just resistance to life. When you want to say no to the situation you're in, it's fine to say no. But when you build up a big case to the point where you're so convinced that you would draw your sword and cut off someone's head, that kind of resistance to life is hell. In the way we practice, we don't say, "Hell is bad and heaven is good," or "Get rid of hell and just seek heaven." But we encourage ourselves to develop an open heart and an open mind to heaven, to hell, to everything. Why? Because only then can we realize that no matter what comes along, we're always standing at the center of the world, in the middle of sacred space. And everything that comes into that circle and exists with us there has come to teach us what we need to know. Life's work is to wake up, to let the things that enter into our circle wake you up rather than put you to sleep. The only way to do this is to open, be curious, and develop some sense of sympathy for everything that comes along. To get to know its nature and let it teach you what it will. It's going to stick around until you learn your lesson, at any rate. You can leave your marriage. You can quit your job. You can only go where people are going to praise you. You can manipulate your world until you're blue in the face to try to make it always smooth. But the same old demons will always come up until finally you have learned your lesson, the lesson they came to teach you. Then those same demons will appear as friendly, warm-hearted companions on the path. Thank you.
Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayeti Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. We have had such wonderful two readings, and each of the songs that we had this morning, each of them are just so filled with thoughts to reflect on that I really don't want to say anything at this point. But now that I've got up, I must say something. One of the thoughts that's been on my mind, and especially I thought about it this morning, was about the two worlds, so to speak, that we kind of carry. And how do you connect these two worlds? By two worlds, I mean one is clearly the world that we often speak about at the Vedanta Center or any places of worship, the world which is filled with the divine presence. We speak about the Atman, and that's one world, world of the spirit, the transcendent world. The other world is the world in which we live most of the time. And it was never too pretty to begin with throughout history, but it just feels as if it's getting uglier and uglier day by day. With the kind of the news and everything that we consume, with wars going on everywhere. There's killing, there is bombing, and the repercussions. Some of these things we are directly affected by, some of these things we are indirectly affected by, with the prices going up. You go to the gas station. So that's another world where we are feeling the repercussions on a daily basis. So, what does this world of the spirit, the world of the Atman, the world which is filled with the divine presence, and this world that we are now trying to deal with, how are these worlds? Are they even connected? Or what do we do? Or we just keep on going to and fro when we try to pray and meditate? We want to inhabit this world of the spirit, and then somehow, even then, even when we are trying to live in that world of the spirit, we're kind of dragged. That's what we call distractions, dragged into this other world. And so that's something that could be a kind of an inner struggle. But it might be also helpful to see that we are already accustomed to dealing with two worlds in a way. And the one world is, of course, whatever dream world each of us dwelt in last night. And then, of course, the waking world. But these two worlds that we have been experiencing right from the very young age are a little bit easier to negotiate with, partly because when we wake up in the morning, there was a dream that we experienced last night, but we instinctively realize, well, that dream was just my mind imagining all kinds of things. That dream did not have an objective reality the way this world seems to have. And therefore, I don't have any problem dealing with dreams, because dreams are imaginary, this world is real because I'm experiencing it. Even sometimes, some of the dreams may affect us even after we wake up, But what affects us is really something in that dream that has resonance in this world that we have. Whether things like fear, betrayal, anger, so on, something that resonates with this world is what affects us in the dream. But otherwise, we are able to deal with these two worlds in a pretty easy way. And I think that insight might help us, that the reason I'm able to hold those two worlds together because one world is experienced as real, while the dream is appeared as not real or at least less real. Now, can we use this insight to these two worlds I spoke about in the beginning? The world of the spirit and this world in which we live most of the time. The reason, whatever we take to be real draws our entire being. That's just the way things are. That if something is real, we are going to be drawn into it fully. And this world as we experience now is very real to us. And of course, it draws our entire being. We react to it, we are affected by it, and so on. But the world of the spirit, which we try to inhabit during our times of prayer, worship, and meditation, has not become so real yet. And that's why it doesn't draw our being the way this world does. And so the obvious conclusion would be, how can I make the world of the spirit real? One of the words that often gets used in Sri Ramakrishna says again and again, the goal of life is to realize God or God realization. So we use the word realization often. And so one of the ways of understanding the word realize is to make real. To realizing God means making God real. And so whichever way we think of the divine, in whichever form or qualities, every one of us has our own favored way of thinking of the divine. But what we can ask ourselves, has that divine which we try to meditate in our heart, has it become real to us? Sometimes we say, well, imagine God in your heart. That's probably unfortunate to way of expressing it that way, because do I just have to imagine God is in my heart? Or do I have to see, to have this, know that God is in my heart, even if I'm not experiencing it right away? And some amount of both thinking and faith are important. I mean, one of the things we say all the time about the reality of climate change, we are seeing the repercussions of it in some ways, but there are people also who don't believe in climate change, thinking, oh, this is not that reason. What we are experiencing now is not because of climate change. And so, but the scientists, those who study these subjects in great depth, then say, well, if things continue the way they are with these carbon emissions and so on, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, how much worse the whole situation will be. Now, that's not something we are experiencing right now. And yet, many of us take climate change seriously, even though it's not something immediately experienced. Maybe it will be next generation or 2 or 3 generations later, because we trust the words of these experts. And we are able to kind of get a glimpse of it, a little bit at least, in what is happening right today. If we believe in climate change, then I don't see any reason to be skeptical about the presence of God. Now we might say, how the two can. Precisely, just as even when we don't experience what will happen in climate after 100 years, we still believe in it and try to do the best we can to offset its effects. There are these so much big testimony of all the scriptures, all the enlightened ones, all these prophets and saints and mystics who have again and again spoken about God being a real presence in their lives. So even though it's not something that we experience now, their testimony and our deep faith can make God real. Now, one final thought would be so these two worlds, the world of matter, the world as the reading on Swamiji spoke about, the body and mind, the world that we experience and interact with through the body and mind, and there is the world of the spirit. Can we experience both these worlds simultaneously? Or if we experience the one, we won't experience the other? And it seems to me that there isn't any one specific way to answer that question. It's mostly, we might say, going back to our dream and the waking, most of the time, again, who am I to say most of the time? But one way that it happens generally, that we are in a dream and we wake up and the dream world vanishes, just boof, it just goes away, and then this waking world comes. So I would imagine most of the time that's what happens. But there are some times when we kind of wake up gradually. And I think at some time or other, every one of us may have experienced that you are deep in some dream, usually the last dream you see just before waking up. And if you don't make kind of very sudden movement immediately after waking up or start thinking, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do, then even the movement of the mind or even the movement of the body can disturb it. But if you just gently, on some rare occasions, you just gently wake up, a part of you is kind of aware, oh, I was asleep, and I'm just, that your dream is still kind of going on. A very small part of you is kind of aware that, oh, that was only a dream. And you can kind of remain in that midway state for a while. Some people kind of connect that with what they call lucid dreaming, when you kind of know a dream and you can kind of stay in that dream for a while, even when part of you know that, oh, that's only a dream. So it's possible that sometimes in this sudden conversion in spirituality, suddenly this material worldwide could vanish and there'll be just the presence of God, an instant samadhi, if you like. But oftentimes it could be a very gradual thing. That which appears so very real and hence relevant to us, and while the presence of God may not be so irrelevant to the devotee or to the spiritual seeker, it hasn't become real yet because we haven't experienced it. Things could change very slowly, sometimes even unconsciously, that we may not even realize. Gradually, the presence of the divine in our heart might become a little bit more tangible, a little bit more real. And to the extent that becomes real, the world that we inhabit in might become slightly less real. Now, if it is just a 1% or 2% difference, we may not realize it quickly. But that is a possibility, which is when we say, oh, when I now pray, when I meditate, I'm able to feel the presence of God a little bit more clearly than I used to before. And the more the divine in our heart becomes real, the world outside will not vanish, but it will stop impacting us, start affecting us, stop bothering us, stop impinging upon our consciousness the way it is doing now, when we suddenly find there is something more real, a deeper reality than this world. The only reason we dismiss dreams as dreams is because we somehow feel this world is more real than the dream world. So when we see that there is a reality even higher, even deeper than this world, it cannot but draw our entire being to it. And that would be one way of describing our spiritual struggle. That yes, instinctively, biologically, we are able to understand this reality, this relative reality of the world, and know that this world is higher than the dream world. What our struggle now is to recognize the presence of another world which is even higher, which is even deeper. That is what Ramakrishna meant when Vivekananda, as a young man, went to him and asked him, "Have you seen God?" And Ramakrishna loudly said that he has seen God. But the second sentence, I always find it much more significant in some ways. And that is, he says, "I see God more clearly than I see you." So it's not as if Ramakrishna didn't see this young man in front of him. He did see him. So that's why he was answering his question. But he said the way he sees God is of a much deeper and a higher reality than the reality of everything. And that would be one way we can think about our spiritual life. That even when we remain in touch with this reality and do everything that needs to be done, and if we do this selflessly, if we do this by holding on to the value of honesty, truthfulness, kindness, then we will acquire that mental clarity to be able to then get in touch with that higher reality. And to the extent the world of the spirit becomes real to us, to an equal extent, this world, which is presently all the tigers above and the tigers below, as the second reading told us, the strawberry is really the spirit. The Atman is the strawberry. So if we want to be away from these tigers, we need to eat the strawberry. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhu.